Hi, welcome to the Planning Commission meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order at this time. It's for our February 5th meeting. So the meeting is open. I'd like to ask Commissioner Polito to say the Pledge of Allegiance and lead us in it, please.
Thank you. Place your hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioner Polito. At this time, can we take roll call, please?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Planning Commission. Roll call, please. Commissioner Member Byrd,
Here.
Commissioner Member Javeri,
Yes.
Commissioner Member Polito,
Here.
Vice Chair Gandhi,
Here.
and Chair Gilheis.
Here.
All members noted present for the record. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to the next item on the agenda. This is the public comments. This section is reserved for public comment on the consent calendar and items not listed on the agenda, but are within the subject matter jurisdiction of this commission. Verbal comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker, subject to the chair extending to a maximum of 5 per speaker, with a total time allotted not to exceed 45 minutes unless the chair extends. Public comments are now open. If there's anyone that wanted to speak, you come to the podium and state your name. Seeing that there's no one for public comments, we'll close the public comments and we'll move on to the next item, which is the consent calendar, which is approval of the minutes for Wednesday, January 8th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the minutes from the January 8th meeting. First motion was put forth by Commissioner Javari, and then it was seconded by Vice Chair Gandhi. Can we vote?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll activate the electronic voting. Voting is open. All votes in. Motion passes with 4-4, 1 abstention, and 0 against. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is new and old business. The first thing is we will review and consideration of an informational update on the Tuesday, March 4th, 2025 Cerritos General Municipal Election. Who will be giving us that information?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item 6A this evening, as you mentioned, is an informational update on the upcoming election. This item will be presented by City Clerk Cynthia Nava. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aguila. Good evening, Chair Gilheis and members of the Cerritos Planning Commission. Thank you for allowing me to provide a brief update this evening on the Tuesday, March 4, 2025 Cerritos General Municipal Election. Tonight, I will also provide information regarding the February 25th, 2025 State Senate Special Primary Election. If you would, turn your attention to the screen. This election season, in the Cerritos General Municipal Election, Cerritos voters have the opportunity to vote for 3 members of the City Council and on 2 charter amendment ballot measures. The City Charter may only be amended by a vote of the people. Both the City Council and Cerritos voters have the power to place measures on the ballot. The California Elections Code defines the process by which residents may place a measure on the ballot by voter initiative. Also by which the legislative body, the City Council, may by majority vote at a public meeting place a measure on the ballot. Measure J on the March 4 ballot relates to the setting of the city's general municipal election date in the City Charter. If Cerritos voters approve Measure J, the election date would be set to remain as the first Tuesday after the first Monday in March of each odd-numbered year. Along with this amendment are other conforming amendments set by this measure, including the setting of the commencement date of City Council terms as the second Tuesday of April, beginning with the 2027 election, and the setting of the date of the annual mayoral transition in the City Charter beginning in 2026 as the second Tuesday of April. Measure K relates to a general cleanup charter amendment. Spelling and grammatical errors would be corrected, and the charter document would be updated to reflect modern business practices such as authorizing the city manager to appoint the city treasurer and separating that role from that of the city clerk. Cerritos voters may now vote in both the city's election and the county-run state senate election. The state recently declared a vacancy in Senate District 36 when Senator Janet Nguyen ran for and won a seat on the Orange County Board of Supervisors. This created the need for the state to call a special election to fill the seat scheduled for Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. Ballots for the county-run election were mailed to active Cerritos registered voters beginning January 27. Ballots were mailed for the Cerritos general municipal election beginning this past Monday, February 3rd. Voting for each election ends at 8 p.m. on Election Day. Because Cerritos voters now have access to 2 different ballots at the same time, those who opt to vote by mail or use a vote-by-mail drop box should be mindful of which ballot they are placing in which envelope. Displayed on the screen are graphics featuring the 2 different return envelopes. Voters should be mindful of placing their voted ballot for each election in the respective return envelope. As you can see, the envelope for the state Senate single race ballot should be placed in the pinkish purple county envelope, while the city's multi-race ballot should be placed in the gray envelope containing the city seal. Based on current voter registration and population data, we can say the majority of those eligible to vote in Cerritos are already registered. To verify if you're registered to vote, visit lavote.gov. Voter registration is also available on that site. Those ages 16 and 17 may also pre-register to vote online. The registration deadlines to receive a mailed ballot for both elections are listed on the screen. It is important to note no voter for either election will be turned away. For the state Senate election, the county will offer conditional voter registration at the in-person voting location. This is somewhat similar to the traditional provisional ballots that will be provided in the event a voter is not found in our voter database for the city's election. Voters in either situation will be provided a ballot and permitted to vote, and their vote will be counted at the appropriate time subject to proper verification. A side-by-side comparison of options for voting in both upcoming elections is provided on the screen. The county is set to conduct in-person voting for the state Senate election at Don Kanabe Community Regional Park for 11 days from February 15 through 25. On the state Senate election day only, February 25th, the Way Out Ministries in Hawaiian Gardens is also scheduled to be open for in-person voting. For updated information on open vote centers for this election, we encourage the public to visit lavote.gov or to contact our office. Though the city's election is being conducted as an all-mail election, for those who prefer to vote in person, we are open now for voting for a total of 23 days during regular business hours in the city clerk's office on the first floor of City Hall through Friday, February 28th. We are also offering early weekend voting Saturday and Sunday, March 1st and 2nd in the City Hall main lobby from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m., which will continue in the main lobby on Monday, March 3rd, 8 a.m. till 5 p.m., and on Election Day, 7 a.m. till 8 p.m. Voters opting to vote in person for the city election are encouraged to bring with them their Cerritos vote-by-mail ballot and return envelope. For both elections, vote-by-mail drop boxes will be open 24 hours per day at the Cerritos Civic Center and Cerritos Park East until 8 p.m. on Election Day. Lastly, voters may mail ballots for both elections free of charge. Ballots must be postmarked by the respective election day and received by the appropriate entity within 7 days after the election. Again, voters opting to vote by mail or use a drop box should be mindful of placing the ballots in their respective envelopes. Our office has been and will continue to work diligently to keep Cerritos voters informed. Aside from providing regular updates at each council meeting, we've placed information on the city's website and have been working with the city's communications division to provide regular updates on the city's social media outlets and TV3. We have also been providing updates at each of the city's commission and committee meetings. We've attended and will continue to attend city events such as the Martin Luther King Jr. Day Ceremony, Chinese Classical and Folk Dance, Festival of Friendship, Valentine's Day Dance, and Cerritos Farmers Markets. We also sent postcards to over 14,500 Cerritos voter households and have provided updates in the Cerritos Community News and various other news outlets. Coming soon, the city will also feature an informational public service announcement video on TV3 and social media outlets. The city's official sample ballots were mailed Thursday, January 23rd. The sample ballot and voter information guide for the city's election has also been available on the city website in 7 different languages since January 8th. Hard copies are available for pickup in the office of the city clerk, elections official, during regular business hours. The Office of the City Clerk is available for assistance Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We look to all of the city's commissions and committees as ambassadors to help spread the word and keep the public informed. On behalf of the City Clerk's office, thank you to the Commission for being our ambassadors and for allowing us the opportunity to present this update. This concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions the Commission may have. It is recommended the Commission open public comment for this item and receive and file this report. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. At this time, I will go ahead and open public comments. If anyone had comments, they'd step forward and give their name. Seeing that no one's here to speak on this topic, I'll close the public comments. And then I'll ask my fellow commissioners if you have questions regarding this presentation. Commissioner Byrd?
None.
Okay. Commissioner Javari?
Thank you.
Commissioner Polito?
No, thank you.
Vice Chair Gandhi?
None.
Well, that just leaves me. So I actually do have a question. I don't have a lot of information or knowledge about the line I saw that said pre-registration at 16. Can you give me more information about that?
Chair Gilheis and members of the Commission, thank you for your question. Yes, at age 16 or 17, any Cerritos resident ages 16 or 17 could pre-register to vote in our election. However, they wouldn't be eligible actually until they turn 18. But what that means is that they will already be in the voter registration database. So they're automatically registered once they turn 18. And then they can re-register if they need to change their party preference or anything of that sort, or change their address.
Okay, thank you. So they can pre-register, they'll be sent information, but they won't be sent ballots. The ballots wouldn't actually go by mail till after they're 18.
They would actually not be mailed any ballot materials, even informational materials until they
Okay.
turn 18. But it's really just a way to get them into the system ahead of time. So they turn 18. If they're turning 18 on election day, then they are completely eligible to vote.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate that information. Okay, with that, we will move on to the next item, 6B. It's review and consideration of an informational report to our commission providing an overview of the City of Cerritos 2024 General Plan Annual Progress Report. Who will be giving us that presentation tonight?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item 6B this evening intends to provide a summary to the Planning Commission of the city's progress in implementing the various goals and programs identified in the city's 2004 general plan. Item 6B this evening will be presented by Management Analyst Mariel Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aguila. Good evening, Chair and members of the Planning Commission. The item before you this evening is an informational report providing an overview of the city's 2024 General Plan Annual Progress Report and General Plan implementation efforts over the past year. At this time, I would like to turn your attention to the screen for a PowerPoint presentation. Under the California Government Code Section 65300, a general plan is a state-mandated policy document that provides long-term guidance for a city's physical development, planning, and zoning. State law requires a general plan to include a minimum of 7 elements, each containing goals, policies, and implementation programs to guide development decisions and achieve the city's overall vision. The City of Cerritos General Plan was first adopted in 1971 in an effort to create a park-life community with balanced development and emphasis on high-quality standards and quality of life, with a view to establish goals for early infrastructure. In 1988, the city completed its first general plan update in response to newer commercial, industrial, and residential construction activity. As the city continued to develop, becoming nearly built out in the early 2000s, it was evident that the city had achieved a significant amount of the goals established in 1988. As such, a comprehensive update to the general plan was completed and adopted in 2004 and is the current version of the city's general plan. In addition to the 7 state mandate elements, the city added 3 additional elements to guide development and address specific needs of the city, a growth management element, an air quality element, and a community design element. In an effort to ensure that cities, including charter cities, effectively implement general plan programs, the state of California requires all cities to prepare an annual report providing a detailed summary of its progress in implementing the goals and policies found within its general plan. In addition to the general plan annual progress report, jurisdictions are also required to submit a separate housing element annual progress report to provide an update on the status of the jurisdiction's progress in facilitating housing in accordance with the Regional Housing Needs Assessment RHNA requirements. Both progress reports are required to be submitted to OPR and HCD by April 1st of each year. In response to this requirement, the city has prepared its 2024 General Plan APR for submission to the state. This report provides a comprehensive overview of the city's ongoing efforts to implement the general plan's goals and policies in 2024. While implementation is continuous, tonight's presentation will focus on implementation efforts in 2024, specifically within the following elements: land use, community design, housing, and growth management. For the land use element, there are 3 updates to report. First, the city's zoning code was updated to establish regulations for body art businesses. Second, at the direction of the City Council, consultant services have been retained for the preparation of a new economic development strategic plan with adoption anticipated in early 2025. And lastly, related to proactive code enforcement activities, the city managed approximately 2,800 code enforcement cases to ensure compliance with the Cerritos Municipal Code and ensure proper maintenance of Cerritos properties. For the community design element, the city is pleased to report that permits for the undergrounding of utilities at the arterial section on Shoemaker Avenue between 183rd Street and South Street have been issued by the city for work by SCE. Construction began in the summer of 2024, and the project is anticipated to be completed in the summer of 2025. For the city's state certified 2021 through 2029 housing element, the city continues to implement a program related to accessory dwelling units. The city is pleased to report that in 2024, the city issued permits for 6 accessory dwelling units. Lastly, for the city's growth management element, the city continues to review emergency response times to ensure an adequate public safety program. In 2024, the average response times for Cerritos Sheriff deputies was 4 minutes for emergency calls, 7.3 minutes for priority calls, and 24.8 minutes for routine calls. Separately, as part of the city's economic development strategic plan, the city launched an updated Shop Cerritos website in 2024, which continues to serve as an ongoing business directory of Cerritos businesses. In addition to the housing programs, as part of the housing element process, the city of Cerritos received a RHNA allocation of 1,908 housing units, consisting of housing units for each income category. Within the housing element annual progress report, the city is required to report how many units were built in 2024 in furtherance of meeting this allocation. In 2024, the city issued a total of 6 permits for the development of new housing, which will be counted toward the city's RHNA allocation. These 6 permits were each for new accessory dwelling units, and of these, 1 housing unit has been constructed. From 2021 through 2024, the city has issued permits for the construction of 26 new housing units, reducing the city's RHNA allocation to 1,882. At this time, as this is an informational item only, staff recommends that the Planning Commission review and discuss the information provided and receive and file this report. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for your attention this evening. I'd also like to take this time to recognize the cumulative efforts of all city staff members here this evening: Director of Community Development, Kristen Aguila; Director of Administrative Services, Drew Schneider; Associate Civil Engineer, Amandeep Mann; and Assistant City Engineer, Jared Lee; Director of Community and Cultural Services, Annie Hilton; and Public Safety Manager, Daryl Evans. Each of them, as well as their great teams, have been instrumental in preparing this report, and I'd like to acknowledge their efforts in the implementation of the city's general plan programs. And so with that, all of city staff, including myself and Ms. Aguila, are available to answer any questions that the Planning Commission may have. Thank you.
Great, thank you for the presentation. I believe it would be appropriate to open now for public comments on this topic. So if anyone would like to speak, please step to the podium and state your name and address and give us your questions or comments.
Hello, Adrian Ayub. And I asked this question as president of the Cerritos Real Estate Investment Association. From a real estate investment standpoint, what key actions or updates from the general plan should investors be aware of in relation to zoning and land use? And also, I'm a member of Friends of the First CEB. I asked the question, what measures is the city planning to implement to encourage the development of affordable housing for local veterans and underrepresented communities in Cerritos?
Thank you for your questions. Director Aguila, would you like to field those?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Is it the consensus of the Planning Commission for staff to address the public speaker's questions?
Yes,
Yes, please.
Commissioner Polito, Vice Chair, Commissioner Byrd.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Mr. Ayub. So I'll address the investment or partnerships for the incentive for the development of affordable housing. As indicated in Ms. Angelis's presentation this evening, the city is required to facilitate the development of affordable housing. How that happens is by way of various things. Pursuant to state housing law, the city of Cerritos is required in its 8-year cycle housing element. So the current housing element is a 2021-2029 state certified housing element, meaning we established a housing element, it was reviewed by the Planning Commission, it was adopted by the City Council, and then subsequently certified by the state of California and deemed in full compliance with all applicable state housing laws. And so through the housing element, the city is given a regional housing needs assessment allocation. Essentially, the state, with population and job growth and housing needs assessments determines how many housing units each jurisdiction is required to plan for. And so in our housing element documents, we are required to identify potential sites within the city of Cerritos to meet that RHNA allocation, RHNA Regional Housing Needs Assessment allocation. In the city of Cerritos, our allocation is 1,908 units over the 8-year period. And essentially what we have to do, as mentioned, is we have to identify sites that can accommodate those 1,908 units. And of those 1,908 units, they are broken down by income category. Very low income, moderate income, and market rate housing. And we have to, of the sites identified, we have to identify the specific number of each of those income categories that would go on those sites. And so in the city's 2021-29 housing element, we did just that. We identified 5 suitable sites in the city and designated the income categories. And since adoption in 2021, we, as city's planning department, in consultation with the city manager's office, have been working with private property owners, not only on those 5 sites, but other sites within the city for the potential redevelopment of existing uses, not only for housing, for industrial, commercial, et cetera, but we do have discussions with potential housing developers for specifically those 5 sites, but others as well. And so we have other programs in the housing element to encourage, streamline review of affordable housing projects in general, in the city's planning department, we have expedited and streamlined review for housing and really all projects. And so through the streamlined review and really through the city's partnerships and relationships with private property owners in the city, which we take great pride in, we're able to encourage the development of housing. As the commission's aware, on the northeast corner of Bloomfield and Artesia, there were recently 2 apartment communities built. Now, those are not affordable housing, but we do have 4 existing affordable housing communities in the city of Cerritos. 3 of those 4 are for sale affordable housing communities, and then one for rent affordable housing community. And so through those efforts and through the housing element and working with our partnerships with private property owners, et cetera, we're able to help guide or facilitate or plan for housing development on those sites. I will caveat that all on while we have to plan for and facilitate, identify sites for housing, the city is not required to build housing. We don't actually shovel to ground build housing. That is predicated on the construction industry, the investment of private property owners, also the availability of land, et cetera. And so in partnership with private property owners and housing developers who receive incentives from the state of California, the goal is to provide affordable housing. And we've done so in those 4 other communities through private-public partnerships.
Great. Thank you very much. I think the takeaway there is the city's required to identify, and we do and we have. We are not required to finance, to get a developer in. The fact that the city goes above and beyond and develops relationships with developers, I think is a plus for everybody in the city. But the city is doing what they're supposed to do to identify land and development areas. That's
Yes,
good.
absolutely.
Okay. So that's the answer to that question. Did you, you had 2 questions. I think we did them. Is that all your questions? Because
Yeah, how will the outcomes of the March election impact ongoing and future urban planning projects in Cerritos? And what role does the Planning Commission foresee for investors and developers in that context?
If I may, Madam Chair, I would encourage the commission to hold this to the public hearing rather than a question and answer session between public speakers, and ensure that the public comments provided are relative to the item before you this evening.
okay, that's fair and good advice. I would just say that some of the questions that you did ask are asking us to kind of forecast what we think is going to be going on, fortune tell kind of thing. So we really not in a position to do that. But thank you for your time and coming up and asking. So
I would also add that I am available to meet with anybody from the public that has questions regarding general plan, land use, development, incentives, affordable housing at any time here at City Hall in the Department of Community Development. I can be reached Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. I welcome the opportunity to meet with you and answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
thank you. So at this point in time, we're going to open it to questions from our commissioners. What I would ask you is that if you have made notes in your packets and you want to ask questions, there's a number at the bottom of the page when it's in portrait. Use that page number. It's easier for these the staff to find what we're asking about. So with that, I'll start with Commissioner Byrd. Did you have questions?
I don't.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Polito, did you have questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Javari?
No, thank you.
Okay. Vice Chair Gandhi?
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. My first one is a comment and not really a question, but I think the funding for this mandate from the state government to create this report came out of a 17.3% assessment to all plans that were submitted. Is that correct?
I could provide clarification on that. Thank you, Vice Chair Gandhi. So the report before you was just prepared administratively by staff. What's referenced in the agenda report is an assessment levied on permits issued by the City of Cerritos, and it's a general plan maintenance fee. As indicated in the report, the city's general plan was adopted in 2004. And general plan documents typically plan out for 10 to 20 years. And so we're right about at that 20-year period. And so back in 2017, the city's community development department conducted a comprehensive master fee schedule update. We did an assessment. We tied it to staff time in processing and reviewing entitlements and permits. And when we did the comprehensive fee schedule update, the City Council adopted a new fee. It's a general plan maintenance fee. General plan documents range anywhere between $1.5 to $2 million to update. And so you can imagine our general plan was adopted in 2004. It's about 20 years old. And to update that would be about $2 million. And so back in 2017, at the direction of the City Council, we instituted a 17.5% fee to building permits to establish a fund to eventually be able to update the city's general plan. And the hope is to do so in the next couple years. It was mentioned in the report, I think we have around 600,000, yes, 600,000 in that account now. And so that maintenance fee was established to assist the city in updating the general plan in the coming years.
So is this a 17.5 or 3% assessed cost on the value of the project?
No, the 17.5% fee is assessed on the city permit fees. So I'll provide just a quick little update. When somebody comes in to obtain a permit, they pay City of Cerritos permit fees and they pay County of Los Angeles permit fees. So you're paying two fees, one to the city, one to the county. The 17.5% is assessed to the city's permit fees. So if your permit fees paid to the city are $100, you're paying $17.50 to the city on top of that $100 for the general plan maintenance fee.
So the city's fee is based on what metrics? So is it the value of the plan, or how do you assess the permit fee?
So permit fees, okay, so we're just going to talk about city permit fees because county permit fees are based on valuation, et cetera. City permit fees established in that 2017 master fee schedule update can only be charged based on the staff time spent. And so on reviewing that permit, let's just call it a patio permit. If it takes 30 minutes to review a patio permit, and it doesn't take that long, but if it takes 30 minutes to review a patio permit, there's a formula in the master fee schedule. It's available for anybody who wants to see it, to recoup staff costs associated with that review of that permit. And so of that staff time cost, 17.5% is added towards that for that general plan maintenance fee.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. I had one more question, and I'm sorry, I had to look for the page. On page 9 of the packet, the amendment to general plan land use to change the land use designation of a property located on 17601 Dumont Avenue from light industrial to educational use. Is this the one where the Valley Christian School asked permits for improvements in the field?
So those two things are unrelated. The recent project that came before the Planning Commission for the football stadium project, that was a precise plan entitlement that came before the Planning Commission. This zoning general plan amendment in 2005 was conducted to, there was a at that time, without going too much into the nitty gritty, there was a property swap, and the existing zoning at that time of that property, the one parcel, was light industrial. And so that property was acquired by Valley Christian. And so there was a general plan amendment to change the zone from light industrial to educational use, to be in conformance with the intended use of the property by Valley Christian as an educational use. So it was a general plan amendment way back when in 2005, unrelated to the
So that was not related
the
to the
stadium,
recent. Okay.
completely unrelated.
Wonderful. Thank you for that information. I have, so on your circulation element, page 18, or is it 13? I can't tell. There's 18 on this side and 13 on this side. So probably 18.
That page there is 13 at the bottom. The portrait is 13.
Okay.
13.
13, I guess.
The portrait line. Yes.
Yeah, the circulation
Circulation
element.
element.
I'll make it simple. Apparently, this relates to the low-cost fixed route transportation service. It's the COW. I have a few questions on the stats of ridership on COW, and then what the cost per mile that the city incurs to run this service.
Thank you, Vice Chair Gandhi. While I don't have the specifics of our ridership and costs per passenger at this point, I could provide an update to the Planning Commission about the COW and the Dial-A-Ride service. So as a result of the pandemic in 2020, I'll just talk about the COW. The service hours, the hours of operation for our Cerritos on Wheels fixed route transportation service were reduced. The demand wasn't there. Schools weren't in session, and so the early morning and late evening ridership weren't needed. The demand wasn't there for it. By not only the students that attend schools in Cerritos, but also the workforce. A large amount of the workforce was working from home, and so hours were reduced. As we slowly came out of the pandemic, ridership never got back to pre-pandemic, and so we did not adjust the hours back to early morning and late evening hours. Over the past 2 years, the city has conducted a very comprehensive assessment of its existing transportation services. And in coordination with the City Council and the City Manager's Office, as well as our existing transit service providers, took a look at cost, right? How much are we expending each year to, I'll put it frankly, run empty buses around the city in a loop all day long in a fixed route fashion? And, what can we do to increase ridership? Do we need to reassess our routes? Do we need to change those hours, et cetera? And so that comprehensive transit assessment, as I mentioned, was conducted over a 2-year period. And there were several options for the future of the COW, including keeping our fixed route service, amending the fixed route service to have different operating hours, different routes, different points of service, and then also an option for micro transit, which is essentially an Uber Dial-A-Ride type service, not using Uber, not Dial-A-Ride, Uber or Lyft, but where a contractor, similar to our Dial-A-Ride now, would provide not bus stop to bus stop, but node to node service, similar to an Uber. After the assessment by the City Council, or after an analysis by the City Council of that transit assessment, the City Council directed staff to begin transitioning the COW fixed route service to that microservice program. And so staff is working on that in implementing the council's direction to do so. That involved, several options, right? Hours of operations, and where are those nodes? Where are the main pickup areas? Where do we need to service? As part of City Council's direction, Council Member Barros, and with consensus of the City Council, also directed staff to include in that micro transit, basically an on-demand reservation-based service for COW, service to the Metro and Metrolink stations in Norwalk, providing greater connectivity of Cerritos residents to those light rail transportations for connectivity to Union Station and beyond. And so staff is currently preparing a request for proposals, which we anticipate will be released here in the upcoming weeks to solicit contractor proposals for the operation, implementation, and maintenance of that new Cerritos on Wheels general public on-demand reservation-based service. I do also want to note that as part of the council's direction, minimal changes were directed by the city council for the dial-a-ride service. The dial-a-ride service is restricted to seniors 62 and older and persons with disabilities. Those minimal adjustments included changing the fares, minimal changes to fares and hours as well. So that's where we're at today with the Cow and dial-a-ride. So although I don't have right here in front of me how much we pay annually for the Cow and how much ridership we have, excuse me, I do anticipate with the implementation of this new service for Cow that we will truly be maximizing the efficiency and the effectiveness of what used to be the Cal fixed route service, but will now be the on-demand reservation-based general public service, the Cal.
So if I understand this correctly, it's not the cow buses that you're reserving and going from node to node?
No, so we won't be picking people up at their house on the bus.
Right.
So it'll be, through the RFP process, the contractors who bid on the service can propose the vehicles to supplement the service, but staff's recommendation would be passenger vans or sedans, similar to an Uber or Lyft. They will be one contractor so that drivers are background checked, screened, similar to our existing dial-a-ride service, and the vehicles will be marked for Cerritos on Wheels, but they will not be the large buses.
And do you expect the cost to the riders to go up or down or any change?
Yes, so as directed by the city council, costs will go up minimally. So right now, Cerritos, the general public can ride the fixed route service for 50 cents per one-way trip, and council has directed the change to $3 or $2 per trip. But again, it's from your nearest corner by your house to Walmart. It's direct. It's not the bus stop, a half a mile away that you have to walk to. And it's at your reservation pickup time, within 20, 30 minutes of the reservation pickup time.
And the eligibility for these reservations would be?
So the eligibility would be, it'd be available to the general public so long as your trip originates or ends in the city of Cerritos. So the boundaries generally are the city of Cerritos, but as the commission is aware, the city of Artesia is right in the middle of the city of Cerritos. And so for the general public, as long as your trip originates or ends in the city of Cerritos, you're eligible. For the Cow, not the dial-a-ride. The dial-a-ride has the age and disability criteria and Cerritos residency.
But the Cow would cost $2, you said, and take you from point A to point B within the city of Cerritos?
Each one-way trip.
As long as you are a resident of city of Cerritos?
You don't have to be a resident of the city of Cerritos for the general public on-demand service. You just have to have your trip originate or end in the city of Cerritos.
I see. Very cool.
So you can't, city of Artesia resident can't call to be picked up in Artesia and then dropped off in Cerritos. So if somebody is a Cerritos member of the public and they get picked up, let's just say here at City Hall, and they want to go to 99 Ranch in Artesia, they can do so. So long as when if they want to come back, right, they have to get picked up at 99 Ranch and come back to City Hall.
Okay.
So, may I?
Yeah, yeah,
ask-
please go ahead.
I'm just a little bit confused. Are you compelled to take a round trip? Is that what you're saying? Because what I think I heard was my friend in Redondo Beach who lives out here, but for whatever reason, she was over in Redondo Beach. Let me change it up. I fly into LAX. I don't want to pay $50 for an Uber. I make a reservation with this service, and for $2, they'll pick me up at LAX and take me to my house in Cerritos.
No, I'll provide clarification.
Thank you.
I apologize for any confusion.
just a
This
little
is
slow,
a very
sorry.
complex matter that we did have several reports at the city council for. So I apologize. The service area is the general boundaries of Cerritos. So you have Alondra to the north, Del Amo to the south, Palo Verde to the west, and Marquardt to the east. Within that area, with the understanding that Artesia is right in the middle, you can take your trip. So in short, no, you cannot go from Cerritos to LAX.
Okay.
It's outside of the
Yes.
Palo Verde western boundary.
So no need for you to apologize. I did not understand that. So thank you for your patience.
It's a very
in explaining it.
complex matter, but as I mentioned, staff and the city council and the city manager's office feel that with the change in service mode, right, going from fixed route to an on-demand service, we can truly serve the need of the Cerritos community and yes, the general public, but truly serve the needs, the transportation needs of those that live in Cerritos and at the times of their preference, as well as provide the connectivity to the Metro and Metrolink stations in Norwalk, Santa Fe Springs.
When does that service start?
So we are, as I mentioned, going to be releasing an RFP here soon.
okay.
As part of awarding a contract, there will be a comprehensive educational campaign to inform the public. I hesitate to put a start date because it'll be up to the proposals submitted by the contractors. But in any event, contractors with the city and the communications team will do a comprehensive education campaign to let the Cerritos community know when those changes will happen.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for letting me ask. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Just a couple more follow-up questions on this whole thing. Obviously, the city of Cerritos is subsidizing a large amount of cost that will be incurred because obviously at $2 you're not breaking even. So will the cost that is being subsidized increase with this new service as opposed to the subsidized cost that we were doing with COW just for the better service?
So right now, the city on the fixed route service pays for hours in service. And so the buses are running all day long. And so we're paying all day long, whether we're providing transportation or not. Under this model, if I make a reservation, the city, or not me, if you make a reservation, the city is subsidizing your actual trip. It's subsidizing an actual trip versus buses that may or may not be empty. Staff is anticipating that cost will be reduced because of just that, right? We're paying for actual trips versus just all day long. I do want to note that our city's transportation services are fully funded by Proposition A and C funds. They're taxes that the city receives. They're restricted only for transportation purposes. And so we receive, I want to say about 2.5, maybe 3 million a year in Prop A and C funds that are restricted for transportation only, and that's what that's what pays for the cow and dollar rate.
Okay.
The subsidy of the cow and dollar rate.
Yeah, no, and that's good to know because I imagine the utilization with this on-call service is likely to improve compared to what you have with the cow. Because I've rarely ever seen a bus with people in it besides the driver. So
Yeah, and I did start out by talking about like not getting back to pre-pandemic. We have seen the city's Dial-A-Ride, which is essentially this on-demand for seniors and those with disabilities. The ridership levels have increased year after the pandemic, and so we're hopeful that the same will happen for the Cerritos on Wheels service.
I think, yeah, go ahead.
What does the Planning Commission have to do with this program?
Well, the Planning Commission in general, reviews matters to land use and planning and development. And so, and as well as public works and items tied to projects. And so, historically, when projects are located in proximity to transportation stops, whether it's Cerritos on Wheels, Metro, OCTA, et cetera, and we bring forth projects to the Planning Commission, the assessment of traffic and impacts.
Right, but as far as
tied
that
to a
program
project.
is concerned, we wouldn't be
No,
approving that program.
That is correct. That project or the transit assessment was reviewed directly by the city council. It's under the purview of the city council. But now you all have all the information as well.
Add something, Commissioner Byrd. This whole thing is just for FYI.
Okay. So I'll stop on that line of questioning, but I've got two other questions, and these are simple. Hopefully they'll go quick. I'm sorry. I've been taking out all these questions. As far as the short-term rentals in the city of Cerritos, it's still illegal, right?
That is correct. The Cerritos Municipal Code prohibits short-term rentals.
Thank you. And then I have a question on the calls that the sheriff's department gets. And so there was I can't seem to find it, but there was a four minute for the emergency calls, and then there was some 7 minutes for priority calls. So just the question is, what makes a routine call into a priority call? What makes a priority call into an emergency call?
Thank you for that question. Be happy to answer that. So in the Sheriff's Department, there are three categories: emergency, priority, and routine. Emergency call would be a call that's generally in progress crime or life-threatening event. That's where the radio car would be activating its red lights and siren. And then, of course, violating the vehicle code, if you would, legally with due regard with everybody else on the roadway. So those are very serious matters because the risks associated with going through intersections and red lights and those sort of things. So those are life-saving, emergency, in progress felony crimes. A priority call is a call that the deputies are dispatched to who are tasked with going there directly without any delay, but they do obey all the vehicle codes. So if they come to a red light, they will wait for the red light. And but they will go there immediately. And so if they're on another call, they might end that call, or if they're having dinner or lunch or some break or something, they immediately stop what they're doing and respond to that priority call. And a routine call is just a business call where there's no risk involved. There's no time sensitivity. The suspects are not in the area. That's often associated with report calls where it's static and there's no particular rush.
Just for my information, would you give me an example of a priority call? What would that look like?
So right
what would be a
now,
priority?
and I'm glad that you asked, it used to be when we received residential alarm calls, they'd be routine calls, but now they've been moved to a category of priority so that the deputies would receive a residential burglary alarm call, and they would respond to that promptly. So before, where it would take maybe 20 minutes, now it's down to 7 minutes or less. Those are average times. Sometimes it's a little shorter, sometimes a little longer. And then depending on when it happens, we also have Skynight, so the helicopter would be responding to those type of things too. So priority calls generally are just occurred calls where the suspect might still be in the area, but there's no life-threatening event. It's always a balance between the risk that you take in responding to the call and everybody else using the roadway. Pedestrians, bicyclists, other motorists. So we don't want to put them at risk if the crime is over, but the suspects might be in the area that might be workable, where you can get there, identify who they are, put out a broadcast, And then maybe law enforcement in adjacent cities would have an opportunity to identify the fleeing suspects. So those type of things are priorities. Just like I said, primarily just occurred type calls or where there's unknown. Sometimes people come home and report that their home has been burglarized. The operator will often ask, is anyone home or does it appear the suspect's there? And they'll say, I don't know. They will send the deputies there promptly. The deputies will do protective sweep of the home, that sort of thing. So again, priority is without delay where the deputies respond.
Thank you very much for that. And just one question, and this might not be in the preview of the Planning Commission, and if it is not, I apologize for it, but there was a private security that was put in place in the city of Cerritos to help with, help the sheriff's department, I presume, in the long run. Would you mind giving me an update on if that has actually helped, has worked, what's the result of that security in the city?
And you're absolutely right. Thank you for the question. The city council has approved the supplemental service of private security. And we currently are contracting for 3 unarmed security guards with vehicles. You'll see them out there, Southwest Patrol. Last week, we identified areas for them to patrol. Those vehicles now have magnetic city seals on there because people weren't familiar with them at first and whether they were actually agents of the city. And now they have the city logo magnetic sign on the side of those doors. People know that. And they work from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And we look at all the statistics. Statistically speaking, residential burglaries generally happen between 9 in the morning and 3 p.m. And the reason why is it's high risk before 9 a.m. because there's still a possibility somebody's home. Maybe somebody went to work, but then there's somebody in the house who brings the kids to school at 8 o'clock, and you still have somebody home. It's high risk if you start knocking on doors 8 in the morning. But generally after 9 o'clock, people who've gone to work have already left. And generally after 3 p.m., it's high risk that you're going to bump into somebody in the house because then the students start coming back from school, or if somebody who went in early, they work at 6 in the morning, got off at 2, those type of things. So we have them deployed during the time periods where statistically the most residential burglaries occur. As far as their effectiveness, it's hard to measure crimes that didn't occur. Did they prevent anything? That number is not captured. We haven't seen a significant decrease in residential burglaries. Cerritos remains a popular place for residential burglaries. As mentioned, last year we had over $12 million worth of materials stolen out of Cerritos. And that includes the commercial areas as well. We have some affluent business owners. We have, as I often say, you'd be surprised. If you could lift Cerritos up and shake it, you'd be surprised how many Rolex watches and bendy necklace jewelry, gold jewelry would fall out of the city. It's not uncommon to have tens of thousands of dollars worth of gold jewelry. We've had, gold bullion, Rolex watch collections, expensive designer purses. And then when the suspects leave here and go back to where they come from, then they report what happened. Hey, I went to Cerritos. I have $10,000 in cash, new Rolex watch, and expensive bendy gold jewelry. And they report where they got it from, which encourages other people to come. And so the city has placed a high priority on abating residential burglaries, and Southwest Patrol is just one of those components. So it's hard to measure. We're still studying it. They've only been out about a month and a half now, so we're taking a hard look at that as to what the effectiveness is.
Thank you very much. I've actually seen the patrol in my neighborhood, which is why I asked the questions. And I have one last comment. It's regarding the election. Thank you for doing all the stuff you do. I hope the turnout in the election that's upcoming is a lot better than it has been in the past. So thank you for all you do. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. I'm actually going to kind of piggyback to one of the topics that you talked about, but I want to, I was remiss in not officially closing the public comments from earlier, so those public comments are closed regarding this topic. Where I know this is the general plan, and there was a safety element. It's more about the housing and the property and the land use. My question is more along the code enforcement for the parking, the overnight parking. have we done anything to bolster the patrol, add more patrols? I believe that Del Amo on the north side between Norwalk and Tetzloff is Cerritos. Is that correct?
That's correct, on the north side, yes.
Okay. If we need to make some money in the city, they need to drive down that street at 3 o'clock in the morning and get 25 cars. It seems to be getting worse, not better. So is there any improvements going on with that program, not just there, but around the city?
Yes, thanks for asking that question. Last year, the city wrote over 16,000 parking tickets, so they are out there. Right now, because of certain vacancies, the city employs 5 part-time parking enforcement officers. Currently, we have 3 vacancies. And so that's why we've had the fall off. The job has been posted out to the public. We received over 172 applicants, and we are reviewing those applicants now and moving forward as quickly as possible to fill those 3 vacant positions. And that's probably why you're seeing that. In addition, I'd just like to say this is an unusual time. Normally, we would have the deputies out there issuing citations as too, but in the last month or so, because of the fires, the deputies, all sheriff stations have been providing a percentage of their normal deployments to respond to once when the fires were actually raging and it was life-threatening. Now they're going up there for protection missions, anti-looting missions. So every sheriff station is providing deputies up there as well. And in addition to that, the sheriff's department is often on tactical alert because of some recent demonstrations related to some of the federal policies. And so we are short a little bit on the stations as we supply people to respond to countywide issues. But that's why you've seen a little bump is the vacancies are moving to higher, and then some of the deputies that are assigned to life-threatening issues around the county.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't realize that we were short-staffed. But I also realize that what they're doing now with covering from the fires and all that other stuff, that's totally the priority versus worrying about the parking stuff. So I appreciate that they're out doing that as well. Okay, I did not have any questions regarding the general plan. So at this point, then we'll move to agenda item 7A, and that's reports from the commission liaison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This evening, I just want to note, as mentioned tonight, encourage everybody to vote on March 4th. And then our next Planning Commission meeting is the following day, Wednesday, March 5th. So that's it for me this evening. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. So we'll move on to 7B. So it's the Planning Commission members' reports. So we'll start with Commissioner Byrd.
No, thank you.
Commissioner Polito.
Thank you, Chair Gilhais. I just wanted to, I attended the Martin Luther King ceremony. Just wanted to congratulate the staff again on a tremendous turnout and a wonderful program. Every year all of you do a great job, and the residents just benefit from all your hard work and all the student involvement, all the speakers. It was just really, really great this year. So I want to congratulate the staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Polito. Commissioner Javari.
Nothing, thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Gandhi.
I just wanted to thank the staff for a wonderful job on this report. It's too extensive. I don't plan on reading all of it. I did glance through it, but it was a fantastic job. So thank you for doing such a good job.
Okay, and so I just have a couple of comments. I would also like to remind City of Cerritos residents to get out and vote. That's one of the greatest benefits we have being part of this country, and we should exercise that every chance we get. I also wanted to say a personal thank you to the first responders that have been responding to the fires and all the aftermath of that. Our area is usually protected from that, but when I saw the pictures of the Palisades and how it had burned all the way to the ocean, that's devastating. It's devastating for families and it's devastating for businesses. And I was at dinner the other night at Cerritos Town Center, and some firemen walked up, and so I went to talk to them, just, to tell them thank you and to offer to pay for their dinner that they did not accept at all. And I said, "Are you guys working out there?" And they said, "Yes, we are. We have been out there in the heat of it. We have been on rotation." So even our guys that are local here are out there putting their lives on the line, right, for the people there. What a great community. And so I want to say thank you to our local first responders, because they're in an area that's not theirs, but they're trying to do their best to protect us. So with that, I'd say good night and that this meeting is adjourned.